Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. So guys, I made a tier list ranking the best starting pitchers in the league, supposedly. I guess the best 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 on each team. The best starting pitchers overall at the beginning of the season. But look, we're about at the halfway point of the MLB season, and a lot has changed, in my opinion, as it does with most MLB seasons. Every year's different, right? So I think this tier list is going to look a lot different than I think it did at the beginning of the season. So here we go. Here is my mid-season starting pitchers tier list. We're going to do this. Let's see how much everything's changed. Let's see where each pitcher ranks. So I would say the S tier is you're a top line ace, no doubt about it. Can be the best pitcher on a championship team. A is you're an ace, all-star level. B is very solid. C is decent, and D is not very good. And again, this is compared to the rest of the pitchers on this tier list. So this is, I assume, the 2 best pitchers on every team. I think every team is represented here. So it doesn't mean compared to the rest of the league, this is where you are. It means kind of compared to what a good pitcher should be, the rest of these pitchers, because we presume that all these pitchers, to some extent, are supposed to be pretty good. Supposed to be is the key word. But with that being said, guys, let's do our mid-season starting pitchers tier list. So it starts with the Arizona Diamondbacks, this random order. We're going to start with Zack Gallen. Now, he might have been A tier at the beginning of the season, but he's kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch, but he's still really solid. I'm going to give him B tier. I think he needs to have a little bit more, I think he needs to have a full season, a little bit more of a sample size, and a little bit better overall in order to be an A tier. Mad Bum, he's been decent. He's been solid this year. I'm going to keep him in B with Zack Gallen. I think being on the Diamondbacks, I think kind of brings your motivation to be good down a little bit. I think these guys are better than their ERAs, even though their ERAs are pretty good. They're like low 3s. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say they're both B tier. Max Fried is having a great season, should be an all-star. He deserves to be an all-star. I will put him in the A tier, not quite S tier yet, but I think he will get there at some point, maybe at the end of the year, who knows, maybe next year. Ian Anderson was supposed to be at the Max Fried level. He was supposed to be A tier, maybe even S tier. He started his career off really well, but this year he's been really bad. He might get demoted. I'm going to put him in C tier out of respect. I think he's too good to be D tier. I think he can turn it around, have a better second half. He's going to be really good, okay? But he's really going through it right now, so I have to kind of put him in a lower tier. So I'm going to put him in C tier. I don't know why John Means is here. I know he's the Orioles' definitely their best pitcher when he's healthy, but I think he needs Tommy John surgery. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. But when he pitches, I think he's a solid B tier pitcher, especially in a terrible non-pitcher friendly ballpark, a very hitter friendly ballpark in Camden Yards. He threw a no-hitter last year, so I think he deserves to be there when he's healthy. Then we have Taylor Wells. What's his name? Taylor Wells? I want to say that's his name. And he's been really solid. I don't think he's at the John Means level, but I think he's solid. I'll put him at C. I think it's Taylor Wells. I'm sorry if I'm saying, I don't really watch too many Orioles games, to be honest. Sorry, Orioles fans. Then we have Chris Sale, who hasn't pitched for the better part of like 2 or 3 years. So when he's healthy, he might be an A or S tier, but he's just never healthy. But out of respect for the name of Chris Sale, I will put him in the B tier. Then we have Nathan Ivaldi, who is, he's been injured recently, but last year he was really solid, and this year he was pretty solid when he pitched. I would put him in the B tier. I think he's probably the Red Sox best pitcher when Chris Sale's not healthy, which is often. So I will put him in the B tier. Marcus Stroman's having a tough season, but that could also be because he's on the Cubs and there isn't that much motivation. I don't know if he's going to get dealt at the deadline or what, but the last couple years he was really good. Maybe an A tier, but because he's struggling this year, but out of respect, I won't move him below B tier, but let's put him in the B tier. Kyle Hendricks, once upon a time, might have been an A tier pitcher when the Cubs were winning the championship, but the professor's gone through it recently. The last year he was not good. This year he hasn't been good. Not quite D tier because of the name and what he's done in the past. I will put him in C tier. I don't think he's been better than that. Definitely not been better than that the last couple years. Then we have Luis Castillo, who I think is very likely to be traded at the deadline, and he's a really good pitcher, but pitching in Cincinnati for a bad team, I think has inflated his ERA, which is not even that bad. It's under 4. So I think he's a B tier pitcher who has A tier potential, but right now we'll keep him in B tier. Hunter Green is so talented. He's such a great pitcher to watch, and I know I'm very confident he will be a great pitcher in the future, but he's so weird because he has thrown a few gems this year. Like, he went 8 scoreless innings, basically threw a no-hitter, and the Reds lost. He's had some absolute gems with a ton of strikeouts, but then he's absolutely blown up in a lot of games. His ERA is close to 6, so I have to put him in D tier, but it's not because of potential at all. I think he has S tier potential, and I think one day he might be there, but stats-wise, I can't put him higher than D. Compared to the rest of these guys, the numbers, they don't lie. He has not been good overall, but he has so much potential, and I love watching him pitch. Shane Bieber, once upon a time, I think was S tier. He hasn't fully made it back to who he once was, but he's still a really, really good pitcher, having a really solid year. So I will put him in the A tier. I would consider him an ace. Then we have Zach Plesac, who has been probably Cleveland's second best pitcher this year. But I think he's probably C tier when compared to the rest of these guys. I think he's pretty good, pretty decent. I don't think he's that good, and he hasn't been that good this year. Herman Marquez once was really good, and I feel bad for him because he has to pitch in Coors Field, just like, obviously every Rockies pitcher. But, I'll put him in the C tier. I'll give him that benefit of the doubt with the Coors Field inflation, but so I think that prevents him from being in the D tier, also considering what he's done in the past. But I think right now he's a C tier pitcher. Same with Kyle Freeland. Once upon a time, had a couple really good seasons, but has struggled the last couple years like Marquez. Can't blame him too much. Not a D tier pitcher, neither of these two Rockies guys are, but I think they're C tier right now. Lance Lynn was an A tier pitcher the last couple years, maybe had an argument for S. This year he's just coming back from injury, only made a few starts. He'll get it back, but he's struggled so far. I think he'll be an A tier, but right now I'll put him in B tier because it's been a while since he hasn't been dominant so far this year, and we got to combine the recent events with the last couple years as well. It's a combination of everything. Lucas Giolito was an A tier with the potential of an S tier. I thought he was a Cy Young candidate this year. He's really struggling, and maybe one of the reasons, along with their many injuries, but one of the reasons that the White Sox are kind of disappointing so far this year. Definitely can turn it around, but I will also put him in B tier right now. Eduardo Rodriguez, he has a really good strikeout rate, been really solid for most of his career the last few years. This year he's been injured and hasn't been as good. So I will put him in C tier. I think once he was a B tier pitcher, not quite D tier, but I think he's C tier. Tariq Skubal, he's been a top prospect for the Tigers, and he's had a really solid year. Is he B tier level quite yet? I'm gonna say no. I think he's C tier, but I think he's maybe C+. He's probably the best C tier here right now. He's having a solid year, but I'll keep him in C tier just compared to the rest of these guys. Justin Verlander, at the beginning of the season, I said for years before this, the last 10 years, he was clearly S tier, I would say. But I had no idea how he was going to come back from injury at age 39. So I believe at the beginning of the season, I had him in A tier. That has changed for sure, no doubt about it. He is back to being an S tier. He hasn't lost a step. He has aged like a fine wine, like Giraffe Neck Mark would say. Shout out to Giraffe Neck Mark, great baseball YouTuber. He is definitely back, and then some, easily S tier. Framber Valdez is really good. I love that he's a workhorse. He's had a great season, great last couple years. Not quite S tier, Verlander level, but I will put him in the A tier. A really, really good starting pitcher. Zack Cranky, back on the Royals where he was a long time ago, at the beginning of his career. He's really struggled this year. One of the worst strikeout rates I've ever seen. But just out of respect for Zack Greinke, maybe it's because he's on a bad team. I won't put him in D tier. I'll put him in C. But yeah, he's really struggled this year. And maybe it's age. I don't know. But I'm just going to keep him in C for now. Maybe we'll do another one of these at the end of the season and see where he's at. Brad Keller, his teammate, I will put him in D tier. He has not been good the last couple years. I think a few years ago he had a good year, but this year, last year, strikeout rate's not there. He gets shelled in most of his starts. The whip's terrible. ERA's pretty bad. I just have to put him in D tier next to Hunter Green. Hunter Green finally has some company. Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher. Last year I might have said A tier because maybe he didn't give you that many innings. I think it was 130 innings. I probably needed more of a sample size. This year, he's been probably even better as a pitcher than he was last year. The strikeout rate's insane, and he has the normal workload of most starting pitchers in this era. So I have to say my man Shohei is an S-tier pitcher. He's just so on the mound, throws close to 100 miles an hour, has reached 100, insane amount of strikeouts, great ERA, it's in the twos. Gotta put Shohei S tier as a pitcher and a hitter. If that doesn't tell you how great of a player he is, then I can't help you out. Noah Syndergaard started off the year really well, kind of bounced back, but he's kind of struggled down the stretch, and so he hasn't really proven to me that he's the pitcher he once was. So I will put him in C tier for now. I don't think he's even B tier. I think his ERA is close to 4, hasn't pitched much. You know, it has pitched this full year, but right now I gotta say he's C tier. I don't think he's as good as these B tier guys right now. Walker Bueller was an S tier coming into this year because he was great, and he kind of struggled this year and then got hurt. He's going to be out for a while. So does he lose his S tier status for now? This one's tough, guys. This one's tough. I'm going to keep him in S tier only because he got hurt. It happens. And maybe the reason why before he got hurt, he wasn't as good as because he wasn't playing healthy. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's see how he does when he returns. I will keep him in S tier right now. I think in order to lose your S tier, you have to be really bad for an extended period of time or be injured for an extended period of time. This is really his first kind of serious injury, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I think he's still an S tier pitcher when he's healthy. Clayton Kershaw. See, this is a guy who would easily be S tier if he never got hurt or he was healthy most of the time, but we know that he's basically a guarantees you an IL stint at least once a season, and he's already been on the IL. He's great, obviously. We know he's the best pitcher of this generation, but he's an A tier because he won't consistently be healthy, but we all know how great Kersh is. Sandy Alcantara, he has possibly morphed into one of my favorite players in baseball because this man's an absolute workhorse. No one's like him right now. The guy has gone 9 innings 3 times this year. His last 10 starts gone at least 7 innings per start, averaging more than 7 innings per start, not to mention an under 2 ERA, under 1 whip. Probably the front runner for the Cy Young. This man has moved into S tier. He's been that good on a not very good Marlins team. Credit to him. I think he's easily an S tier pitcher. This is a true breakout workhorse season for Sandy. So great credit to him. Pablo Lopez has had a really good year this year, really good last year. I'm going to give him the A tier. You know what? He's been really good. I got to give him credit. Maybe A-, lower end of A tier, but I think he deserves it. He's been really good. Corbin Burns, last year's Cy Young winner, has not lost a beat this year. He was an S tier at the beginning of the year. He's an S tier now, no doubt about it. Might even be better numbers-wise. They're slightly better this year, I feel like. Brandon Woodruff was an A tier pitcher coming into the year, I believe. He has struggled this year, but he was also hurt. He's just coming back from injury. His first start back from injury was pretty good, so I will not move him down from A tier. I think he's going to get to where he was before. I think he'll be just fine. I'm going to keep him in A tier. Joe Ryan, a top-level prospect, a guy who has a lot of potential for a division-leading Twins team. One of their better starting pitchers. He's had a really good year. I will put him in B tier with A tier and S tier potential. He's had a really solid year. I think that's where he belongs. Sonny Gray, he's had a really good year. Not in a full season, but he's had a really good year when he's pitched. Probably the best pitcher on a playoff team. So does that give him A tier status? You know what? I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to give Sonny Gray A tier status because the last couple years he was really good as well. So I will give it to him. I'll give it to him. I think he's pitching for a purpose this year on a playoff team. Probably their ace right now. I will give it to him. Then we have the 2 Mets starting pitchers, Jacob Degrom and Max Scherzer, who are both injured right now. But it would be a crime to not have either of these 2 guys in the S tier. You got to do it. These guys are phenomenal. 2 of the best pitchers of this generation. You know these guys. Insane strikeout rates, insane ERAs. These guys are ridiculous when they pitch. Probably might be the 2 best pitchers in the league when they pitch. So no doubt about it, definitely S tier. Garrett Cole, I think he's S tier as well. Maybe he hasn't been as good as he was on the Astros, but that doesn't matter because he's still an ace. He's still going to go far into games. He's treated like an ace. The strikeout rate's still insane. Still an ace. Still S tier in my opinion. Nestor Cortez, one of the breakout pitchers of this season. One of the reasons why the Yankees have been clearly the best team in baseball through about halfway through the season. He has struggled a little bit in his last few starts. His ERA was under 2 for most of the season. Now it's in the mid-2s, but that doesn't matter. He's been great. Not an S tier quite yet, but I will put him in the A tier. He's had a great breakout season and should be an all-star. If he's not, I will be upset. Frankie Montas, he's going to get traded just like Luis Castillo, one of the top trade deadline commodities this year. On a bad A's team, he's still putting up good numbers. I'm going to give him a B tier, but I think he can move up into A tier. I think he's really, really good, and I think he's going to get even better when he gets traded because he'll be pitching for a purpose. And at that point, I think he can move into A tier. I just don't think he's done quite enough for long enough to be in the A tier, but he can move up. Paul Blackburn was pitching like an A tier pitcher. He's had a very surprising year, but he wasn't good before this year, and I think he was due for regression. In the last few starts, that's what's been happening. So I'm going to put him in the C tier. He's not that bad. Overall, he's had a very solid, very good season, but I just feel like he's better than the numbers he's been putting up this year, and I think he's due to regress. So for that reason, I will put him in C tier. Zack Wheeler was the runner-up, I believe, for Cy Young last year. I don't think I put him in S tier, but you know what? No, I think he's still... I don't know. I think he's still A tier, but oh my God. But he's better. I'm going to put him in A tier. It's really tough. He might be the best A tier pitcher. I mean, the strikeout rate's there. He's a workhorse. It's tough. I don't think he's at the level of these guys. That's just my opinion. A plus tier. Let me know, guys. I don't know. Comment your opinions. I don't know. I just feel like he's A tier. I don't know why. I don't think he's at that top-notch ace level. Same with Aaron Nola, having a really good year, just like Zack Wheeler. I think these guys are definitely aces. A tier means ace, but not top-notch, just in my opinion. Then we have Jose Quintano, who started off the year well for the Pirates, kind of regressed, and I think at this point in his career, he's just a pretty decent pitcher. I will put him in the C tier. And then Will Crow, he's been solid this year. I'll give him the C tier. He hasn't been bad. He's been solid. So like Quintana, for a bad Pirates team, if he were on a better team, he probably would be better. So I can't give him the D tier. I'll give him C. Joe Musgrove has had a very nice year, probably his best season so far. Not quite S tier, but he's had an A tier caliber season. Really good last year as well, through the first and only no-hitter in Padres history. So I think he deserves to be in the A tier. Same goes for Yu Darvish. I think last year he struggled a little bit, but this year he's having another really good year, and he's had a lot of really good years. Great strikeout rate. We know what he's capable of, so he's definitely an A tier pitcher in my opinion. Robbie Ray had a case to be an S tier pitcher because he won the Cy Young last year. Kind of been disappointing this year, though, up to this point. Still been solid, kind of making his way back. Still pitching a lot of innings, still a workhorse, still striking out a lot of guys. So I will keep him in the A tier because I think he's still been good, and the peripheral stats are there. I think the ERA will keep going down, and I think at the end of the year, he'll definitely be A tier. Logan Gilbert, what a nice breakout year he's had. Top prospect, didn't have a great debut season last year, not a great rookie year, but this year he has broken out. I think he deserves to be an all-star, and I think he deserves to be in the A tier alongside his teammate Robbie Ray. Logan Webb had a really good year last year, and he's continued on this year. He started off the year not so great, but he's back to where we expect him to be, playing at a all-star level recently, especially the last month plus, so I think he's still in the A tier. Carlos Rodon, great signing for the Giants. He is also A tier, strikes out so many guys. Last year he was A tier, and he has continued the breakout year he had last year into this season for the Giants. Jack Flaherty has S tier potential, and he's definitely A tier for sure as a minimum, as his floor. But I haven't seen the man. Where has he been? He's been hurt so much. But when he's healthy, he's A tier. But I don't know. It's been a while. I just got to put him in B tier because it's just been a while, guys. Honestly, I can't keep someone in A tier who's been out for pretty much a year plus. I don't even remember the last time he was dominating. Adam Wainwright, I got to give him the A tier. What a nice late career resurgence he has had. Great for him. So, I mean, he's just getting it done. Last year he was great. This year he's been great. Phenomenal workhorse pitcher at age, 41? Is that how old he is? Tyler Glasnow, poor guy. He's been hurt many times, and he's hurt right now, just like Jack Flaherty. But is he, would it be unfair? I'm going to put him in A tier because I think when he's been healthy, he's been even better than Jack Flaherty. The strikeout rate's been better. The ERA's been ridiculous. Last year, the first half of the year, might have been the front runner for Cy Young. That's how good he was. I'm such a big fan of his. So I will still put him in A tier. Shane McClanahan, I think, is the front runner for the Cy Young. I think he's S tier. Is it bold because this is his first good year? Yes, but he was a top prospect. The potential was through the roof, and he has put it all together this year and been unreal this season. Definitely the Cy Young frontrunner. He's going a lot of innings. He's going deep into games, which is rare for a Rays starter. He's striking out so many people. He's getting the wins. Everything is fantastic for him. I think he's definitely been the best pitcher in the AL this year. Right now, he's definitely the Cy Young. I got to put him in S tier. He has fully lived up to his potential and then some. Martin Perez, what a nice breakout year he's having. He was just so solid, or maybe even below average before this season, but he's had a nice year. But I think he's going to regress, I think, a little bit. But right now, out of respect for what he's doing, I will give him a B tier, and I think he deserves to be an all-star in the AL. Jon Gray, the potential's always been high for this guy. We figured as soon as he gets out of Coors Field, then he'll break out. This year, he's gone to the Rangers, and he has not really broken out. I don't think he's quite a D tier. He's solid. He's decent. I will put him in C tier. Kevin Gausman, he was great last year on the Giants. Blue Jays picked him up this year, and he has lived up to all the hype and then some. He's been great this year. I think he's A tier. Should all-star candidate, pitch like an all-star. Jose Barrios, I would have said he's A tier heading into this year, but he's had a very disappointing season. I think he'll get it back, though. He's still young. I will give him B tier right now because he has not pitched well. Steven Strasburg is S tier when he's healthy, but he is never healthy. The man is made of glass. I have never seen a more injury-prone player in any sport in my life, and I'm not exaggerating. Seriously. This guy came back this year for one start after 3 years of nothing, and then he gets hurt again, and he's on the IL, and he might be out for the year. I'm sorry. If you're just never healthy, I can't give you higher than B, no matter how good you're supposed to be. The guy is never, ever healthy. And last but not least, we have Patrick Corbin, who was an ace in 2018 and 2019 when the Nats won the World Series. Just like Strasburg, he was ace level. Probably A tier, right? But the last 3 years, and this year especially, I mean, the man has been so horrible. One of the worst starting pitchers in the league. So Patrick Corbin has fallen big time from A tier. Unfortunately, I got to be honest, we've had a 3-year sample size. He's all the way down to D tier. I never thought I would say this 3 years ago, but the man has fallen big time. So guys, that is our mid-season starting pitchers tier list. Every team was represented. We got the supposed 2 best starting pitchers on every team. I just want to shout out, there are some players that aren't on this list, like Tony Gonsolin, who has had one of the front runners for Cy Young. There's probably someone else I'm missing. Let me know, but I think this list, I think for the most part, it got most of the best starting pitchers in the league. So comment if I missed someone. Comment your opinions. Where do you agree with me? Where do you think I'm a moron? Where do you disagree with me? Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're a sports fan and you haven't done so already. And guys, I will see you all in the next video.